Less than a month into Donald Trump's second presidential term, we have seen a flurry of activity from the Oval Office. Among the targets in the president's crosshairs, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. Ian Prasad Philbrick, writer for the Starting Point newsletter, joins us. Welcome, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
So, Ian, what is USAID, and why is President Trump trying to shut it down?
Yeah, well, as you said, USAID is an agency of the federal government. It was created in 1961 by President Kennedy and by Congress. It sort of came out of a Cold War context where the goal was to both support a moral mission of helping developing countries around the world by providing them aid, and also to counter the Soviet influence of their own development that was going around the world. So the agency today supports vaccination campaigns. It supports efforts to reduce maternal mortality. It supports efforts to stabilize countries after natural disasters. And it does so by providing grants and other contracts to the private sector and also to NGOs and nonprofits around the U.S. In terms of why President Trump wants to get rid of the agency, it's pretty clear that he has accused the agency of fraud. He says that money that it is donating as aid or giving out as contracts is being spent fraudulently. There's very little evidence of that, but it is true that the agency has supported efforts that President Trump opposes politically, things like supporting LGBT organizations around the world, supporting hiring of people of color and more diverse workforces around the world. And there are also, those may be some of the reasons why he is opposed to this agency and seeks to gut it.
You make the case that USAID is a program that historically has had a level of bipartisan support. So why do some conservatives feel the program is still important?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the Cold War context of when USAID was created, and part of that was there is this dual mandate for USAID. It's not just to help foreigners, it's also to help Americans. And it does that by preventing diseases from coming to the US and treating them overseas, detecting them before they can spread. It does that by rushing humanitarian aid to countries that have natural disasters so migrants don't flee to other countries, including the United States. It does that by supporting countries to be more efficient in their government and less corrupt in their government, which is likely to keep them stable and therefore reduce conflict around the world as well. So all of these things, Republicans have often made the case, benefit Americans, not just people in other countries. And that's particularly true now when the global hegemon of the United States is facing a rising China. The Soviet Union is no longer a rival, but China is. And China has its own initiative to give money to countries overseas to help them build infrastructure called Belt and Road. And in confirmation hearings, even in the past 4 years for Biden administration officials to run USAID, Republicans have praised this program as a way to counter China's influence. And so even as recently as a few years ago, some of the same Republicans who are now standing by as Trump tries to dismantle the agency have been defending it.